I keep hearing. Okay. So it's my name's Sasha Basho. I am the SIM Women Committee lead, and I'm very grateful to be welcoming Vikki Espinosa as our guest. Vikki, after a long career at Intel, about 31 years at Intel, working her way through finance, and clearly found her love and passion in career, basically transformation is what I would call. So she's all about trying to help people find the work that is good for them, and spent about 20 years with Intel around a number of initiatives in diversity. And on a fun note also, I think she might get into this slide, she also is a fencer. So we're very grateful to have Vikki. She's moved on into the consulting world, that knows this topic better than anyone else I've seen. And I met her when I was at an event, which you'll hear referenced, that TAO basically sponsored, that was about, how women rise. And it's really about breaking the 12 habits that undermine our effectiveness as we want to go up the leadership ranks. So on that note, Vikki, I know you're going to introduce yourself a little bit more, so I'm going to go ahead and hand the microphone over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to meet everyone. And feel free to put questions in the chat. I'll do my best to keep an eye on it, or we'll have people jump in and let me know that there's something there if I miss it. So as you heard, my name is Vikki Espinosa. Today, we're going to talk about mentoring and helping people, and really personal brand is at the heart of today's conversation. So be prepared to write or type, and Sasha will send out some empty PowerPoint templates that you can fill out later. So if you wanted to actually follow those templates, you're more than welcome to. So I'll just send you what I have, and you can put your own information in. And I'll cover a bunch of topics that will help you build that brand. So the underpinning pieces that you need in order to understand your personal brand. And Sasha mentioned we had talked about how women rise. Let's see if I can get it in focus, which is, here's the book, and there's a picture of it there. The habits that we'll kind of touch on today, the ones that we can help break, are the reluctance to claim your achievements. So when we talk about personal brand, we actually have to talk about the things that we know how to do and what we've done and what we've accomplished. Expecting others to spontaneously notice and reward contributions. We're overwhelming that with giving them information about ourselves and what we've done, what our results are. And then leveraging versus just building relationships. So how do we actually utilize the expertise and the connections of the people that are in our network? And then the last one is a habit where people fail to enlist allies at the beginning. So not setting up mentoring relationships with people that can assist and guide us through our careers. So great book. If you haven't read it, it's good for mentors to read, especially people mentoring women, to give them help on identifying maybe what's been holding them back, what's keeping them from rising inside their organization. So a little bit more about me so that you understand where I come from. I'm a third culture kid. Some of you may have be raising third culture kids. Those are kids who sit between two different countries or two big cultural changes. And so for me, I had a dad who was raised in Brazil as an American, but then came back to the States for college and then moved back to Brazil and then raised his family there. So I speak Portuguese and Spanish and English, and you create your own third culture when you're raised between different culture than your parents were born into. Some time in high tech, a lot of time in finance, operations, and HR. Started teaching career development concepts and ideas to employees back in 2009. And then I also created, and I teach a job crafting class, so how to craft a better job for yourself, to more than 3,000 students over the time that I was there. And a few extra things, Parafencer is in there, and so is breast cancer survivor. I've had surgery, yeah, thanks Amy, and have been through there. So that's been pretty interesting. If anyone's interested in that journey, I'm happy to talk about it. So let's talk about what you'll walk away with. I'm going to give you some ideas, some templates, help you communicate. If you're a mentor, you can take one of the templates and give it to your mentee and say, hey, fill this out. Help me understand you a little bit better. Get them to actually give you the information so that you can help them grow and develop. And some ideas for finding the best role for you or for a mentee. So I want to start with, what is personal brand? Does anyone have a simple way of explaining that? You're welcome to put it into the chat or come off mute and shout it out. We're a small enough group that will work. Anyone have an idea of, when we say personal brand, what does that mean? All right, not ready to talk and you're eating your sandwich, that's totally okay. But who you are and what you represent, thank you. It looks like Alina, a great way to be. It's who you believe yourself to be, and also how people think of you. And, you know, what words jump into their mind when your name comes up in a meeting. And I like this one, what others say when you're not around. Yeah, how do they describe you? How do they explain who you are? That's perfect. How I'm showing up to others. Yes, good stuff. So personal brand is all of those things. And sometimes we're working so hard, we don't think about it enough. So I'd like you to write down a couple things. What 3 words would you use to describe yourself when you first meet someone? So you're meeting that person and you're trying to tell them who you are. What are those 3 adjectives or descriptors or things that you would say about yourself? So take a minute, and they can be, you know, outgoing, entrepreneurial, helpful, whatever it is that you want. How do you want people to see you? And the next one is, what 3 words do people use to describe you? So if you get recognition from people, or someone does an intro and says, hey, I'd like you to meet my friend Amy. She is blah, 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 blah. What do they say? What are the things that they write down? So your perspective first and other people's perspective second. All right, if you're done with that, and it's okay if they didn't jump to mind. I mean, this is why we're here, to give you homework, to give you things to think about, for you to do things for yourself later. Totally okay. But if you look at those 6 words that you wrote down, pick 3 out of the 6, and it could be any combination that you would like to portray. And if there isn't one there that you're like, oh, but what about this? Write that one down. That's totally okay. You can write in some new ones. Just remember, you're not going to be able to change yourself overnight. So if you wrote down that you're shy, you're not going to immediately be outgoing. It's very hard for you to flip and change and be something that you're not. So try to stay focused on the wonderful, fantastic things that make you different, like me. Each of us are different. Each of us have different skill sets, different capabilities. So be careful to do that. All right, let's see some homework, fun thing for you to do. And I give this sometimes to people when I'm in an interview process and they freak out, and that's totally okay. I tell them it doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to be fantastic. But this is something that really helps you understand someone and understand yourself. So on one page, that's all you get. Create a summary for yourself and describe who you are. You can think of it as maybe an advertisement. If I were to advertise you or advertise Sasha and I had one page, what would I put on the page? What were the different things that would be there? And just keep in mind, you know, it doesn't have to be perfect. And the other thing is, don't include things you don't want to do. So there may be things that you are fantastic at and you hate doing and you cannot stand them. I'm a phenomenal proofreader, but I hate proofreading. So I would never put it on a piece of paper to tell people that I'm a great proofreader, because I don't want to be asked to proofread anything. I worked in the legal field before I went into high tech. And so I'm an amazing proofreader, but no, I don't want to do it. So I want you to think about, when you create your ad or your one page, you know, this is who I am. I want you to think about the things you want to do, the things you want to be known for, the things you want to elevate and to make available. So as we were doing this one time for a class, a friend of mine, Pam, who's another amazing coach, she actually did one for me. And this is it. So she grabbed some words that she think described me: connector, fearless, creative, motivating teacher. And then she added some more things behind it. She put a little summary at the bottom so you could get some words. And there's a picture of me taking second place at the Pan American Games in 2016. I am injured in my left leg, so I actually compete sitting down, which is super fun. But these are different ways to portray who you are. You'll see that other one up on the right. Another friend of mine created that for my internal blog, something that could be out there for people to find as I talk about things. So how will you create and be as creative as you want, something that describes you? And this is putting away that fear of claiming your achievements, putting away that you don't want to toot your own horn, all of those things. You have to put all of that away so that you can really get yourself on a page, however you want to do that. So as we leave this particular one, I'm going to ask you a question that people dread. People hate when I ask this question. Do you have an elevator pitch? Something that you know how to introduce yourself cleanly, beautifully, all the things you want people to know about you, consistent with those 3 words that you picked before. So they're describing you, and you're describing yourself and the value that you bring. You're including, where it makes sense, numbers and data. You know, I've taught over 3,000 students, or whatever it is that makes sense for your business and for what you do. And you want it to be engaging. You don't want to bore them. And some of us, if we don't practice this, we drone on forever. And the person that we're introducing ourselves to are trying to figure out how to get away from us instead of coming closer and being curious and being interested. So you want to make sure that this is, you know, quick, to the point, succinct, clean, interesting, engaging. And maybe you say something that makes them ask a question. Well, say more about fencing. What does that mean? You know, I'll have some people, do you put up fences? No, I don't put up fences. I actually fight with a sword and a chair. So it can start extra conversation and get you going a little bit deeper if you put something in there that's maybe thought-provoking or interesting. And practice, practice, practice. Introduce yourself to the person at the checkout counter when you're buying your groceries. Introduce yourself to your neighbor. Introduce yourself to other parents on the soccer field when you're out with your kids. Practice until it becomes comfortable and normal and natural and easy for it to come off. And then when you're in a pinch and you're trying to introduce yourself to the VP of something or the CEO of the other thing or whatever it is, the CIO, it's easy and it feels natural and comfortable for you. So then online brand. I don't know how many of you think about your online brand, but that's getting to be a bigger deal since we're at home. We're not in the office seeing people all the time. A lot of times all people see of us is maybe a LinkedIn post that we liked or something that we said or a comment that we made in the on Twitter or wherever it is that we are connecting. And I want to remind you as leaders, as employees, as people, what you tweet, share, and comment on should be linked to your brand, and it should be consistent and regular. So if you are someone that does what I do, career development, I don't post about politics. I worked for a technology company. I didn't post about technology or other companies unless it had something to do with one of my themes. So I want you to really think about keeping your personal separate from your business and having themes, lanes, and focus on what it is you're going to post. So you can see up here, I've got, you know, career development is a theme, networking is a theme. My spreadsheet goes on for quite a while, but I grabbed the top 3 to kind of show you, you know, what is the lane? Helping colleagues find new roles. What is my focus? Posting, forwarding, or commenting on roles as they come available. So if you follow me on LinkedIn, you usually see me commenting on jobs or sharing a job or sharing an opportunity or sharing a company that I think is interesting in. For the SIM event and other events that are around career development, or even workshops or conferences, I'll share those because they're career development focused. If there's opportunities for networking, anything in this space, I tend to do it. And you should post regularly and often and in your lane, really focused on your themes, what your themes are. And I think a lot of us don't think about that, and it ends up being a hodgepodge or a mishmash. If you think of social influencers or people on Instagram, they do this quite a bit. They make sure that they're consistent. All right, so what I believe, and a lot of people argue with me, and I love arguments, so let's have a discussion about this. You can love your job and be excited to do it every day. There are a lot of people who tell me work is work. I don't have to like it, I just have to do it. It's how I make money. I disagree. I believe that with some effort and making maybe a few tweaks and changes, you can get it just right. You can find a career, a job, something that you really, really love. And when you do what you love, you shine. And it may or may not be easy, so you may have to reach out and get some help. Just remember, each of you are unique and unrepeatable, and you have this capability and capacity to do the thing that you do so well. And sometimes we need to wait for our excitement for something new to overwhelm our fear of the unknown. Only when that happens, when we get so excited that we overwhelm that fear, do we make a change. So think about those things. And I'd like you to really think about what effort is helpful. So if you're going to do career development work, what work is going to help you? Well, the first one comes from job crafting. And this is one of the foundational elements, and it's understanding your passions, your values, and your strengths. So what brings you joy and fulfillment? What is important to you? What are you good at and love doing? And when you're able to find those things and get them front and center in the work that you do, you'll find your best career and your happiness. So I'm excited for you to see those things for yourself. And once you understand those foundational elements, you can apply job crafting techniques like task crafting, relational crafting, and cognitive crafting. Those different techniques will really elevate your ability to shift your job or shift activities into the work that really feeds your soul and makes you happy. So some people tell me, well, I don't know, I'm passionate about a lot of things, or I'm not really sure what I'm passionate about at all, or those kinds of things. If that's true, there's quite a few books that can be helpful to you. And whoops, it didn't build out. There we go. Passions. Well, you can read Grit, The Passion Test, or Finding Your Element. All three of those are really helpful. I have a friend who actually does a workshop for the Passion Test, and I find those sessions extremely useful. The other thing, it comes from Marcus Buckingham's work, his earlier work, is to have a love versus hate list. And you can ask your mentees to do this as well. For 2 weeks, have them document the extremes. I love when I get to do these things. I hate when I'm asked to do these things, or these things are on my plate. The things that they don't mind doing don't matter for this exercise. You're really looking for those extremes. If someone brings you a love-hate list as a mentor, it can be really thought-provoking and helpful for you, like, oh, you like these things, but you don't like those. That's interesting. Have you considered this? Or have you thought about that? Or, oh, I should connect you with my friend so-and-so. It's going to really stir up ways for you to help that person. And you're not going to be making assumptions just because they're a product marketing engineer that they would like this, or just because they're a financial analyst, they should like that. It takes away that, and it gives you a real insight into that person. And doing this for yourself is also extremely helpful. Then we talk about strengths. There's a lot of strength surveys. I bet a lot of you on the line have done different ones, whether it's, StrengthsFinder or Berkman or Enneagram or Myers-Briggs or DISC. My favorite really is Core Strengths. I love that one because it comes with all this extra stuff, an Outlook add-in, and a way to learn about others on your team, so you craft the best email that'll be the most effective in getting what you need, support from them or answers or whatever it is. And it tells you your motivation. People process, or performance. And then some people are in the middle, and that means that they come at problems with perspective. And if you are a people person and you're working with a process person, you'll know that they're going to ask different kinds of questions and be concerned about different kinds of things as you work together. Same goes for a performance person working with a people person, understanding that their concerns and ideas and thoughts are going to be different. And so you need that balanced approach. So putting teams together with people who have different motivations and different strengths can be really eye-opening and get you a better result. So then I'll have people say, well, Vikki, I don't know what my strengths are. I don't know how to articulate those, and that's really hard for me. So remember the easy button. The things that you do with ease and excitement and energy, those are the things that you're good at. Those are your strengths. Just because you're good at something doesn't mean that you have to like it. So sometimes we do things and we're good at it, but we don't like them. That's not a strength. Okay. In fact, that's actually a weakness, because when you do it and you're unhappy, you're taking away from your strength. So strengths are those things that you enjoy, that you do well, and that you're excited about. And maybe someone sends you a recognition, or they come up and say thank you and are start gushing about how amazing you are, and you're thinking, well, that wasn't hard. Sure, you're welcome. And you're getting more and more uncomfortable because they're getting more effusive in their excitement about thanking you. Just realize that's your strength. It's not a strength for them. It's something that was hard for them, or something they couldn't think about doing. And then when you did it well because it was your strength. So different ways to find your strengths. Values, this is just an excerpt of a list. You can find a million lists just by Googling. You can find exercises, all sorts of things to really bring, there's card decks that you can get where you put them all out and you pick the top 10, and then you whittle that down to your top 5, and then you pull out your top 3. Just realize that when people step on our values, that's when things get uncomfortable at work. So if we value honesty and we know someone's lying to us, that's when things get really awful. If we value hard work and we think someone's a slacker, that's also where things get uncomfortable. So usually it's our values that are at stake when we're unhappy. And so think about the last time that you were uncomfortable or things weren't going well. Try and determine what value of yours got stepped on or trampled by the other person. And those are the things you need to align with your work, making sure that those values show up in the other people you work with, show up in maybe with your customers, or show up in the work that you do each day, whatever that is. So very important to be aware of your values. So what gets in the way for people who are trying to move forward in their careers, trying to be successful, trying to move up? Other people's words, opinions, guidance, and wishes, and sometimes ours as mentors. Sometimes our stuff can get them stuck and they're holding on to something that they shouldn't. It could be their parents, their extended family, teachers. It could be very much associated with their culture. Oftentimes there are some cultures where the first kid's an engineer, the second kid's a doctor, and the third kid's a lawyer. And they didn't really have a choice. That was the expectation of the family. And so that can be really uncomfortable. There's also the disbelief that work can be fun, fulfilling, and enjoyable. That can get in the way of you understanding your brand and being happy in your career. Lack of role models can be a problem. We haven't seen anyone do it successfully. So what says that we could, or that we haven't met someone who loves what they do. And then the last one is we get in our own way, inertia or comfort. We are fine, everything's okay. It doesn't have to be fantastic. I go, I do it, I get the money, I move on. So why bother trying for something else? So one thing I want to talk to mentors and mentees about, people who are leaders, is a trend I'm seeing on LinkedIn about getting help to get a job. So you're trying to get a job, you're interested, or you're on the receiving end of a request to help someone get a job. Make sure if you're requesting that you've written down the requisition number, the strengths that you have, the experience you have, and give them a blurb in the third person of what makes you an awesome candidate if you're asking that person for help. Make sure you have the rec number, the title, and then look at who can help you as you send a note. Maybe they have the same title, they work at the same company, they're connected to someone that you think can help, and send detailed requests. Make sure you put it in there so they can cut and paste and they can use your information to go fast, because you want to enable whoever it is. And if you're on the receiving end of a request and someone says, can you recommend me for a job at your company? Whoa, way too vague, super vague. The answer back is, if you send me a requisition number, a title, exactly what skills on your resume say that you're the right candidate for the job, I would consider helping you. Yes, right? So you don't have to say yes if they're vague. You can send them back to do more homework and give you a little bit more assistance in helping them. And then the other one that I've been seeing is this, oh my God, I lost my job. I love my coworkers. I'm super sad. Keep me in mind if you see a job. Okay, super vague, super not helpful. So if you are writing something, make sure I am seeking a product marketing role where I can do, ABC with XYZ experience, et cetera, please connect me with people in your network. Or if you know anybody at this company, I'm really interested, whatever it is, be hyper specific so that people immediately put that in their brain and go, okay, product marketing roles. If I see anything, I'll have to remember to call Elise or send her a note because she's interested. So you're trying to create this memorable, sticky thing in someone's brain so they know how to help you quickly and easily. If you see a mentee, someone who you work with, write one of those, I got laid off, I'm super sad, keep me in mind. Coach them, send them a direct message or an IM. Hey, that's not helpful. Be more specific. People will want to help you, but you've got to be more specific. So on both sides of the coin, make sure you're helping people. And it's around brand. And then I promised you 2 other templates. And these are pieces of paper you can send ahead of a meeting or before a one-on-one to really talk to people about who you are. So this is an older one with a bio and a location. And right now, maybe you want to put remote in there if you want to be remote, but you can put your career highlights in, your aspirations, where you hope to go and what you want to do next. And then what you've been doing to pay it forward inside your organization, company, or group, whatever that is. So this one would be more people in leadership, management, that kind of thing. Let's say you're an individual contributor here today. This is another one that can be helpful. Gives a little bit of background about you, especially if you're trying to get someone to mentor you or you're trying to build a relationship. Talk about your skills and your strengths, what you value, what your style is, so what people will see. And then maybe your aspirations, what you're hoping to move towards, what you're looking for next. And for those people who are super uncomfortable with that first box and go, I would never tell people about my family or my hobbies, that's totally okay. You can switch that out and put something in like how you can help me, and put your requests in, or those kinds of things. Different cultures are different ways. Some people really want to know more about you and to build that relationship. Some people are super uncomfortable with that, and that's totally okay. So you can modify these to work for you in any way. And so I put some examples there, connect me to those who are interested in 3D printing, or can you review my cover letter for an opportunity I'm pursuing? Those kinds of things. You can put your asks in there. So you'll get a little PowerPoint with empty ones of those, and you can fill those out or share them with other people. Feel free.
Hey, Vicki, we have a great comment from Elise, if you saw that.
Oh, excellent. No, well, let me go back over there. What did she say? I've had some great connections. Oh, during interviews. Yeah. Talking about hobbies and other experiences. That's so true. I remember I wanted to interview someone because they had written down they had 6 knee surgeries and I had only had 4. And I wanted to hear why they had 2 more than I did. So that was one reason I'm like, I want to talk to her because she had written that on the bottom of her resume, survived 6 knee surgeries or something funny. It was something interesting, but it created a conversation. So that's great. So from a learning perspective today, from this little lunch talk, you need to know yourselves before you can find your best career. So understanding your strengths, your passions, your values, the words that you describe yourself, the words that other people use to describe you, all of that is really important. And it takes time. So if you're, a recent college grad, you got to work and try things to discover yourself. I think a lot of us, when we look back, will remember, oh, that first job I learned, I hated this and I loved that, or I was good at this and I was terrible at that, whatever it was. So if you go to each job is a gift. Each role that you've had is a gift, and it has taught you things, both positive and negative. And then communicating out who we are helps us find the next best opportunity. When I finished an assignment at work one time, I was in a group that I hadn't built a real serious foundation in. I'd been there only 3 years, so I didn't have I had a lot of people in other parts of the company, but not that part of the company as much. So I sent out 50 letters. Hi, it's Vikki. My assignment here is done. I'm looking for my next opportunity. It should have these things. It should not have these things. It should be this level. Keep in mind and let me know. I'd love to hear what you're seeing out there. And so 25, I got a response. I don't know anything. On the other 25, half of them sent me stuff that I wasn't interested in. They didn't really pay attention to read or that kind of thing. And then another 12, I got responses that I could follow up on, or people I should meet, or people I should talk to. So that can really help you find the next best thing, is just reaching out and tell people what you're looking for. Templates can be really helpful, especially if you're trying to build a relationship with someone or you're meeting someone for the first time. And the more and the better you get at understanding who you are and what you want to do and what you don't want to do, the faster and more effective you're going to be in getting help from your mentors and network. And then, provide the details if you're asking for help. Just please be specific. And if you're not getting specific requests from people and you're on the receiving end, then go back and say, I'd be happy to help you if you give me the following information. Don't ignore their request, just send them back to do more homework. There's some additional resources in here for anybody who's, and you'll get a PDF of this as well. So if anyone's interested in the core strengths assessment, let me know. I'm happy to help out. If you're interested in job crafting class, let me know. I don't have anything set up right now, but I can certainly set some up if there's people with enough interest. We can do it for our company or for a handful of people, whatever works. And I'd like to thank you for coming today. And if you have any questions, let me know.
So Vikki, what advice would you give if you're a mentor, right? So you talked about using a one-page plan, right? What advice would you give? Or what's maybe one of the big mistakes that you see mentors making?
Assuming that people are like them is usually the first one. So not spending enough time to understand how they're different and what they want, and then putting their ideas and beliefs on that person and expecting them to do those things, even though that might not be what they're looking for. Oftentimes people come for mentorship because they're miserable and they're looking for something else. And so I call it aggressive listening. Really spending time being aggressive and, okay, tell me more, let's go deeper, and how did that happen, and just being infinitely curious. And if you can get a lot out of them, then you can come up with, oh, I might not be the right person to talk to. Based on what I'm hearing, I need to connect you with my friend so-and-so, or have you thought about changing and shifting into something more like this? Here's some ways that you could explore that kind of thing. But I think it's this assumption thing. I remember being a financial analyst, which I don't know how that happened in the first place, because I studied international business and marketing, but I came in through the finance door and ended up in finance. And every leader I went to is like, okay, first you're going to do budgets and planning, then you're going to do inventory, then you're going to do revenue. Then I'm like, oh my God, I'm not interested in any of this crap. I don't want to do any of this. But they had it laid out already for me. You will follow this path. And I'm like, no. So that, I think, is the biggest mistake mentors make, is the assuming.
So you touched a little bit on what my follow-up question was going to be next, which was, if you're in a situation as a mentor and you really believe you're not the right fit, or you it's not working for you. I mean, I hate to say it, right? Like what are the what are some diplomatic ways, right? So that you can, for people that may not be experienced in like, what a lot of people consider to be conflict, I would just call it, being direct.
No
Right.
fault divorce. That's what I usually call it.
That's a good,
Call
that's
it
a good reference.
It's the no fault divorce. So it's like, Amy, I can't tell you how happy I have been talking with you over the last 6 months. It has really been enjoyable getting to know you and learn new things. Unfortunately, at this juncture, my time needs to be elsewhere. And I think based on what I've learned about you, I'd like to suggest that you talk to these 3 people and see who might be a good fit for you going forward.
Funny how she picks me.
Because you're right there in the middle on my screen. And if let's say you're Amy and Amy wants to break up with the mentor, sometimes this is hard for people. This is really hard. So I'll use Alexandra. Alexandra, I cannot thank you enough for spending, the last 6 months with me, walking through and talking about these particular things. I've really decided I want to spend time going deeper into pick something that Alexandra knows nothing about. I will stay in touch, but thank you so much. And you're done, right? So I'm going in a different direction. I'm going that way. And Alexandra's like, oh, I don't know nothing about that. And you're like, great, perfect. I'm out. I've found someone who I can talk to, and I'm going to be focusing there, but I'll be sure to circle back and let you know how things are going. And then, I send a note to Alexandra. Oh, I've had, 3 sessions with Joe and it's been amazing. I've learned all sorts of things about 3D printing or whatever it is. Something Alexandra doesn't know or care about. And that's, no fault divorce. Not your fault. It's just, I'm going in a different direction. Does that help, Sasha?
It does. It does. I would say I'm well practiced. So not because I'm mentor, but I mean, I'm well practiced in, like you're saying, no fault divorce, not on a personal level, but as in a manager level.
You only have this much time, right? You've got this much time. So you need to spend it where you feel you're making progress. I've actually dumped mentees who don't do any work. So I've said to them, I'm not seeing the progress that I would have expected from the activities and the things that we're talking about. I don't think you have enough time to work on these things, or it's not a priority for you right now. So let's put this on pause, and when you're ready, contact me. Usually they know they've been dumped, right?
I kind of want to add into that too, Vikki, and just kind of piggybacking on what Sasha was saying. And I've used this from a previous training that Vikki has done. Just a shout out to her. This is how we're connected. But the whole concept of taking and understanding and helping people to understand what they like and what they don't like, and then using that when you're putting together teams or you're creating a mentee-mentor relationship to say, this doesn't really seem like this is something you like to do. And then you're able to kind of unwind it diplomatically without having to have anybody have those hurt feelings, or I've been divorced, or, whatever the situation is. And so you can kind of rearrange what the individual person on that team is doing by just removing, as Vikki kind of explained it really well at the beginning, removing the things they don't like to do and giving them the things they really like to do. And it's extremely beneficial.
It can change everything. It can change everything. I give this example. I had 2 customer service reps that answered the phone for this specialty system we had at work that only serviced like 350 people. So if you had a problem with the system, you'd call and you'd get one of these 2 people. And their feedback forms had been sinking, like their numbers, they'd gone from 5 to 4 to 3, and they weren't getting good feedback from the people who were using the system. So one day I put headphones on and I just sat with not listening or hearing anything. And I watched the 2 of them at work to see what the hell was going on. And we'll call them Doug and Jane. So when the phone rang, Doug would move away from the phone and Jane would move towards the phone. When it came time to actually work up the answer and do the investigation, Doug would get excited and you could see him pounding on the screen and trying to figure out what the problem was. And Jane would get up and get coffee. And so what I ended up doing, and as I sat with them, I says, okay, these are the things you have to answer the phone, you have to document the problem, you have to then sit and research the problem, and then you have to call the customer back and tell them what the solution is, right? Or we have to send out a customer-wide answer, right? Oh, by the way, this happened, and here's what you do. I said, I'm interested in seeing how you guys would feel if Jane only answered the phone and did all the documentation and the customer connection, and if Doug did all of the research and the work. And the two of them lit up, both of them, because I was taking away the things that each one hated and giving them the things that they were great at and enjoyed. And so just because they had the same title didn't mean that they had to do the same work, and made a huge difference. We watched the scores just climb over the next couple of weeks as they settled in and got used to it. And Jane couldn't wait to get on the phone. Oh my God, she, you know, be sitting there. You could tell she was just waiting for it to ring. Please call me. Let me help you.
That's a great story.
Yeah, he didn't want to help.
Yeah,
He
Vikki,
wanted to figure out the problem.
you
know?
actually, as a leader, made a great, I mean, what I think is interesting is, to your point, people get stuck in job descriptions.
Mhm.
And I found the same success when you really let people play to their strengths, right? Everybody's happier and the
Yeah.
results are better. Instead
I
of
did
just saying,
this-
if you have this title, you have to do all these things, right?
Yeah,
It's not
shift it.
We usually
Yeah,
don't like
shift
all
it.
those things, right?
Another thing I did as a leader is, let's say you have 7 accountants that work for you, okay? And one of them decides to leave to go work somewhere else and do something different. And so now you have an open rec. You don't have to open the job that that person is leaving. Instead, take that job and put it in front of the 6 other people and say, so-and-so is leaving. Would anyone like to trade one of the responsibilities of so-and-so's work for something that they're doing that they're sick of doing? And what happens is, you know, I'll take this and I'll give you this. And say, okay, great. So then you write a new job description with the 6 things that the team gave you, and you hire someone for those 6 things. And now you have 6 trainers because they're still there. And they can train that person to do that thing. And you're, you know, the person who's got the 2 weeks is teaching everybody the thing they picked up in the 2 weeks before they leave. And so you're not in such a hurry. So it's another way to really mix things up and give people an opportunity to try something new and get rid of the thing that's exhausting them, whatever that is.
So we are getting to time, and I hate
All
to
right.
keep this off because this is always fun, but we have a couple of questions, and maybe it looks like Elise asked something about, she said, you provide some great resources and a good reminder that relationships, including with yourself, take work. Based on the resources you shared, where would you advise that I start?
I would start with those 3 things: strengths, passions, and values. So start with those 3 things. And strengths, you know, you can go pretty far. If you haven't watched Carla Harris talk about the pearls, go watch some of her videos on YouTube. Just type in Carla with a C, Carla Harris, pearls of wisdom or pearls of something. I forget what she calls it. But she's amazing, but she'll help you with some of that, you know, identifying who you are. And you could send out a Google form to everybody and saying, please put in the first 5 words that come to mind to describe me, and make it anonymous and see what people come back with, and then kind of group them and see if that works and it sounds like you, right? What am I good at? How people describe me, those kinds of things. But really dive deep into, who is Elise, right? What do you value? Think about the last time you got ticked off at work. What triggered you? Core strengths is a great way to figure out what triggers you. It has triggers in it. And I love that one, because then you can sit when you're quiet and go, okay, the next time this happens, what am I going to do? And you can write out your response. And then the next time it happens, you have this very adult response because you actually sat and thought about it, right? One of the ones that drives me crazy is people ask me for help, but then they don't use my advice. That makes me crazy. So I came up with, okay, if I see that happen again, I'll say, you know, it's really interesting. At least you and I talked about this and I recommended a couple of things, but I didn't see you implement any of those changes. What happened? So now I'm curious and I'm not defensive or angry. So really understanding triggers can be also monumentally helpful.
So we're getting on to time. Vikki,
No problem.
I know that you said that you'd share some of the resources and part of the presentation. So if you're on this list or registered, we will share that with you.
Perfect.
just a quick reminder, I'm going to kind of wrap it up from a SIM perspective because we do try and end early, even though this probably could go on another hour. We do have some events coming up. So SIM is entering into its, next season. We usually take a break during the summer, besides virtual events or socials, those type of things. So we have our charity golf tournament that's coming up September 7th. For those of you that are local members, would love to have you participate in some way if you want to, volunteers. But it's a great way to engage. And that tournament raises money for our scholarship fund. So that's our big fundraiser. Second, we've got our first chapter meeting, which will be featuring Andrea Ballinger. Some of you may have heard her speak. She's a CIO of OSU, and she's going to take on the topic of ethics related to AI, right? And the impact it can have on your organization from a risk perspective and a compliance perspective, in a positive way, right? Because it's unknown territory, right? But talking a little bit about what they're considering in higher ed and how to use that. So I think it should be pretty interesting. That's on September 13th. We will have a Sim Women Happy Hour that's going to be coming up in September or October. We haven't picked the date yet. And then our poker event, the Sim Women Poker event is back. We are going to be doing that November 2nd. So we're working on getting those details out and finalizing our sponsors, but you should be hearing about that soon. And we look forward to, if you have any questions about these events, please just go to the SIMPDX website. All of our events are there. Vikki, thank you so much for your time, all of your words of wisdom, and everybody will have her contact information in the follow-up email. So, and I'm sure she would welcome a LinkedIn connection too.
Absolutely. Happy to talk to you or answer questions or just say hi. So.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Vikki, so much.
You're welcome.
Have a lovely afternoon and survive the heat, depending on what state you're in.
Thank you, Sasha, for moderating and organizing it.
Happy to do it.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.